Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us again for another one of our BFT Tech videos. Today we are bringing you the very popular Igea UL, popularly used for residential gates or even your carriage door setups or barn door, garage door setups. There's a 2-motor setup that we're going to go over today, and of course it is being paired with the Thalia UL. This is our UL 365 certified package for anything you need for all your safety needs. All right, let's go over the wiring and a little bit of what's going on inside of here. So of course this is your Motec board or your limit switch board. This right here is your manual release. This is your limit switch, your open and closed limit switches, and these right here are your limit cams. Very important to install the limit cams. I have a lot of people that didn't know, they just threw it on and they're like, the gates aren't stopping. So of course make sure you have your limit cams installed. The manual release, you have to continually hold it to move it open and closed, and then of course you let go and it'll lock back in place. Also, a quick tip is very important to wire motor 1 to the motor that you would like to open first, right? So if you have an overlap or you have some sort of mag lock, the door that you would like to open first is the door that you would wire to motor 1. So for testing purposes today, this is our motor 1. So on the manual, I know it talks about the wiring to make the change on polarity at the board, but I myself like to do it at the motors, and I'll go over it a little better. So if you looking at it backwards from the camera, number 1 is on this side, number 2 is in the middle, number 3 is on the right. So 1 is white, number 2 is red, and number 3 is black, right? And then of course, you'll notice here that this top limit cam lobe is off to the side. So your top limit is not the closed limit in this case, right? So the bottom cam is actually clicking the bottom limit switch. So in this setup, my bottom limit switch is the closed limit. Now let's move over to motor 2, right? Motor 2 is gonna have, the same setup, cams, everything, manual release. But if you notice, I myself like to wire it a little bit, I like to wire it backwards at the motors. So your number 1 is still gonna be your limit switch, your white, but now number 2 is black and number 3 is red, right? And I do the switch here, and I'll explain a little better in the control board. And now one more thing to point out, you notice on this side, the top cam is actually clicking the top limit, because now your top limit is your closed limit. So they're backwards, right? So if you have a 2-motor operation setup, whatever you do to this side is opposite on this side, all right? Now we're going to go over to the control board. This, of course, is your Thalia UL, and if you notice, both gates are in the closed position. So that's motor 1 closed, motor 2 closed. Your motors are hooked up to your blue plug. All right, so now you notice here, I have everything similar here. I have everything matching, which is better for troubleshooting in the future if you're trying to find out if it's a control board issue or a motor issue. All you do is you move motor 1 to motor 2 and so forth, normal troubleshooting steps just to see if you can find out what's going on. So your number for motor 1, the motor that you would like to move first, your red would go to 10, your black would go to 11, and then of course you follow up with motor 2, your red going to 14, your black going to 15. Now your motor 1 white cable is going to go to number 42, and then your motor 2 white cable is going to go to number 43. So remember, if you are swapping these for troubleshooting, you also have to swap these real quick if you're trying to find out what's going on. Also very important, remember guys, this is a UL board, so you need to have the photo beams hooked up with a 5-wire setup. Look at the video in the top corner, and we have a link to let you know where you need to be. More or less, that is an overview of the board. And now we're just to go through a quick troubleshooting to make sure everything is okay. Not troubleshooting, excuse me, a quick run through to make sure we did everything correct. Push the OK button 1 time. You'll notice that it now says language. It's asking you, of course, English. Type, we are working with the Igeas. You can select different motors. You want to make sure that you are on Igea. Then it's gonna ask you the number of motors. And we have 2 for demo purposes. You can switch between 1 and 2. Direction, this really has to do with your application. If you're using it push to open in carriage door operation or in let's say regular gate residential, you use INT. It really, it has to do with your setup, so you would just play with that until you get which one you want. Push OK, then we're going to go into our presets. You have a few different ones. You have AR, which is automatic residential, SR, which is semi-automatic residential, AC, which is automatic commercial, and SC, which is semi-automatic commercial. The difference between the A's and the S's basically is one has a close timer and it closes itself. The other one does not. You have to push to open and push to close. And this last one I bring attention to because a lot of people select it without knowing that this is dead man switch. If you're using IND, it will only work while constantly holding the button, and it won't work with a remote. Remote won't do that. You'd have to constantly be pushing something to your inputs over here to make it move. As soon as you let go, the motor will stop working. So very important to when you get to this step to just select either AR or SR. So for testing purposes, I'll choose AR. It is now programmed, and then it's going to go to auto set. Auto set, it sets your torque limits and your slowdown distances for you. Very important to make sure you have your limit switches set before you do this, or be ready to turn off the power to adjust the limit switches if they're wrong. So push OK, 3, 2, 1. Should now get movement on the doors. If you notice, motor 1 started moving first, and motor 2 started moving second. Very important to note that if your photo beams are not connected correctly, you will be getting an ER01 or an ER04. So very important to, again, follow the link to hook up the photo beams and make sure they're working okay. We got an okay now on the board here. So that means everything went okay. The auto set is set correctly. So now the next very possible step is push okay, and it takes you straight to remote programming, which is a quick little function there that you can do all your remotes and all your keypads at once without this leaving. You would simply push the hidden button, and the way you do that is pushing both top buttons at exactly the same time and making sure the light doesn't turn on right away. That's how you know you're doing it correctly. So you push both buttons, there's a delay, the light turns on, you get release on the screen, you let go, a quick tap, you should get OK 08, 09, 10, whichever position the button is, and it should be programmed. You push OK, you get an end on the board, and of course we get a CC, and you notice everything went okay. CC, both motors are closed, and again, just to point out, remember both of your limit switches are opposite, so the bottom one is touching on this side, and on this side, the top one is being touched. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. If you need anything else, please let us know. Thank you so much.